Welcome, everybody. It's March 23rd. I think this is our 7th week now meeting. On the agenda, we'll check in on the code situation, how testing's going, how our collection of contacts and assembly educational materials going, and we can check in on Kylan as well. Is there anything else to add to the agenda? Anything new come up in the last week that's worth adding to the agenda today? Okay, let's get into it then, starting with this one. Eve, do you have anything to report on? I think there might be some news on the work Dan's team is doing on the 3.05.
Well, it was merged, if I'm not mistaken, earlier, or I guess later last week. I don't recall when it was exactly. It was either Friday or Monday. And so the only question we had last week was the naming of it, whether or not it was 3.05 or 3.0.5. Somebody could go and double check. Other than that, the work should be there. And it's just a question now, continuing the review, testing to see whether or not there are any issues with that so that we can ideally address before we start the work on the remaining work to get it to 3.1. So ideally in the next, I guess this week, next week, and the following week. So it gives us, let's say, 2.5 weeks from today to find any bugs with that so that we can address ideally before we start the rest of the work.
Okay, so we can start testing that immediately, I guess, for anyone who wants to, for example, test the diffuse stuff, that should be in there.
Was anyone ideally able to... the BPs are going to be able to deploy this on Jungle ASAP and or.
So 3.0, has anyone been able to confirm if there's an extra dot in there or not?
I'm going to go check right now. So it was 6 days ago that it was merged on the 17th. Yeah, so it was last Thursday. So it was after our call. And if somebody wants to go, yeah.
I thought Dan said he didn't tag it since the repo was active with other people putting stuff in. So there probably isn't a version tagged.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. Yeah, we have not tagged this word commit because there are obviously, yeah, there you go.
Does that impact any? That still means we can still test, just we don't know if there's a dot or not. Is that right?
You have a specific tag. This PR shows the merge where we included the diffuse changes. And what I'll do is I'll post that in Mandel just so that you have it as well. It's a pull 38. And it would be, if we were to name it, it would be 3.0.5. So yes, there would be a second period.
All right.
Under the current structure, I guess.
Cool. Okay, perfect. So anything else to add on that? Let's look in on Jungle. We can fix my period here while I'm at it. I haven't had a look yet. How are we doing? Do we have Amsterdam, Costa Rica, and Argentina?
Amsterdam joined the Jungle already registered. On Kylan, our account, I mean, we lost the key from our old account like 3 years ago. The guy who created it is no longer available. So yeah.
We have Sphere.
I saw.
And Collab is asking for.
I saw that Attic Lab is.
And we do have Sphere that registered over the weekend.
Back to Mandel, who is going to release 3.05? Is it the Fractal team?
No, that would be our engineers when they start.
But they're not going to start for a while. So if you want to test now, you just have to build from the branch or from that merge. Unless you want to do it, because it's going to be weeks before we would actually release a tag 3.05. We are actually moving towards releasing a 3.1.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. Just clarifying who is responsible, who is the code owner for the release.
Oh, right now, do you want to be?
No, I mean Eve already.
As I said, though, that's 3 weeks before we're, I guess, by default going to be the owners. So in the meantime, if it facilitates anything, feel free to do so.
And you said if you wanted to test, you'll have to compile it. Could you repeat that?
I don't think they dropped a build. Did they put a build in wherever the repos are in the name?
Yeah, just like latest code you can easily build.
Yeah, I mean they did a Docker container of 3.05. I don't believe so. There's nothing to just take. There's no binary to take and just use. You would have to build your binary, unless Dan or Brian or Kevin or somebody that knows how to do that could do that for us. I don't think Dan and Todd and Stephen are not working on it any longer. They will fix bugs, but they've handed it off.
Okay. Because basically tagging a release means testing, right? So this is the release. You need to run tests.
Right.
So there should be a testing procedure. I thought that Dan's team is responsible for that.
They're responsible for bugs that are found in it, but they're not going to build anymore or do any more with it. We could elect, if we on this call want to, we could decide we're going to tag it as 305. Dan felt that there were other people actively working in the repo, and that's why he didn't want to tag it. He didn't want to like get partial work in there. So if we feel like we're at a good, merge point and everything's in and stable, we can tag this and then do a build and then start testing it on Jungle. But we don't, I can't do that. I've never built, EOSIO before. So we would need either, Stan or Brian or Kevin, someone that's willing to do that, that actually can build the software and then make it where we've got a Docker container or whatever sitting in the repo, and then people can use that.
That's not an issue. EOS Sweden is actually publishing their own binaries, so we just ask them to create a temporary Debian package. They're doing it on a regular basis anyway.
And then, but do you want to tag this thing so we freeze it in time and say, okay, this branch and build a new branch?
Yeah, we can tag it as a release candidate. If all features are already in, we don't expect any new features, then I can tag it as a. But I don't have right access to that.
But the issue is, and I'm speaking for Dan, so I may not be accurate. He believed other people were working in the repo. I know Kevin has been looking at some performance tests.
I pasted the message that we got from the Fractally team in the Mandel group. That way, it gives you exactly the reasoning for why they didn't, just so it's easy.
I mean, if we're ready, I think it's probably a good place. But I think we need just a bit of cleanup, and then we could tag it. Some of the submodules don't actually point to their corresponding mains, I don't think, right at this moment. So we probably should just clean that up a bit. And then at that point, I think it would be a good point to tag it. If you just want to let me know what you want to tag it, I can make that happen.
That would be awesome. Maybe, Kevin, we can add you.
Are you okay to just tag it 3.0.51 or something?
Yeah, I can do that. We should also update the CMake file so that it actually builds, so that it's actually that version within it. So
would you mind doing those, Kevin? Do you need write access to the?
No, I've got write access. So if you guys make the call, I'll get a PR up to update the remaining submodules. I think that hasn't been done. Stephen done a little bit of that work, but I think there's a little bit left there to do. And then a PR up to update the CMake file for the given release, and we'll call it, I guess, 305 RC1. Is that
3.0.5 RC1?
Okay, and then I can tag it.
Yeah. So you guys synced all the submodules yesterday.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'll verify that, and I can push up a PR to update the CMake file. And I think that's it then, and then we can just tag it.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. So does that change any of this here? Once this is tagged, there no longer is a need to build your own binary. Is that correct?
It depends if they make a Docker container or not, or give a build. I mean, if it just because it's tagged doesn't mean it's runnable. You might still have to build.
Okay.
Well, basically, tag is basically a reference, right? Some reference point for the code, and we can say that this code at this revision works or doesn't work, or there are some issues. So tagging is basically marking a milestone.
Just your stamp of approval that it's ready, kind of thing.
Well, it's more like, yes, we agree that we don't add any features before releasing. Basically, we're just preparing for release at this stage.
Master list of the files at that specific version level of every one of the files. So you could go back, if we then built more stuff, you could go back and still grab the 3.0.5 RC1 because each one of the files got tagged with that. So it's just a way of, snapshotting and saying, this is what this code is. This is what we had in it. And the other stuff that came after it's not in it. But there still would need to be a build. But I've noticed that there had been some people building Dockers and then leaving them in the repo. And I just don't have my screen up to remind myself what the heck that part of it's called. If Kevin or Stan or someone wanted to build an Ubuntu 18.04 and an Ubuntu 20.04 or whatever, or 16.04, I don't know what Jungle is running, then you'd be closer.
Yeah, I will ask EOS guys. They are doing that on a regular basis. As soon as we have a tag that some reference pointing to release candidate, they will prepare the binaries.
Yeah, one thing we should do is there are release notes for the previous release for 3.0, and so we should do some release notes for this as well if we're going to do a tag release. Stephen, is that something you could put together for your portion of what you guys did?
Yeah.
Okay. If you could start that, then I could add you do a draft of it and let me know, and then I can jump on there and add what we did, which is very minor stuff. Just some minor cleanup is all we've done so far in the repo.
All right.
Did I get that right? Correctly, team's going to provide release notes for their changes. Kevin's going to provide release notes for OCI changes.
I'm good with that. Steven, does that work?
Works for me.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Anything else on this topic? All right. Moving back to the jungle. Do we have Costa Rica yet?
Forgot to ask them, but I can ask them if they're going to rejoin.
Cool. And I haven't reached out to Argentina, so that's my bad too. And I see Attic Lab is just waiting to get voted in. So good. We're making progress there. What's next? I don't know, Randall, if you have anything to update on the collection of contact information for our exchanges and dApps. I think I saw Randall join. Not sure if he can speak. Not really. Okay, no problem. I know last time we checked, we were well on our way. We have the majority of our targeted contacts. We have contacts for them. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. Stan, any progress on the documentation stuff that you've been working on?
No, last week wasn't really.
Okay.
So
And given that we're not doing a consensus upgrade, I would say that the urgency is not as high as when we were first planning this, since we're going to. But I do, yeah, the sooner we can assemble and start communicating will be better.
No, of course, there's still some, we need to inform them that they need to look at the different repository, and the name is now different, and the team responsible is also different. So all this needs to be communicated.
Yeah. So that's something I think you and I maybe can partner on. Like, I'll need your help on the technical stuff, and I can help craft something, write an article, and maybe get the ENF, maybe Zach can help us spread it when it's ready. What else? What was the platform support that we were waiting for? Some documentation? Any progress there, Ted?
No, we're waiting for now, since we've released the names. Bucky will start on April 6th, and he had said he'd be able to get it done before then, but I have a feeling he's starting to enjoy his vacation, which he deserves. So he will be producing that once he's on board.
So he's starting on April 6th. Let's give him a week maybe after that. Expect it. Beauty.
I'll also ping him and see if he's bored of his vacation already.
Cool. No rush, I would say. Let him enjoy his vacation. And was there anything we were waiting on here? I don't think. Did we get any community proposals come in?
Nope. So you actually marked that as done.
It seems like we came to consensus. Kevin suggested that the submodules go in, that the rest of the parts stay out. And I don't want to speak for Kevin, so Kevin, if I got that wrong, but you can see that some of the submodules, I think it was Kevin that did that, recommended they go in. It'd be good to hear what Stephen or Stan think of that. I think it sounds good.
Yeah, I think the dependency libraries like the FC and some other ones, that makes sense to be in the same repository.
Okay, so we're in the process of merging these into or it's already been done, or okay, the decision was made that we will be merging these.
Okay, so there's already a reference saying the last three should not be merged in. I see that.
Yeah, these ones here, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're going to bring RocksDB. I don't think we brought RocksDB.
Yeah, RocksDB doesn't even exist in the Mandel repo.
Yeah, so that should come out. If it had been brought over, but we didn't bring it over. Stephen and Todd didn't bring it over. So you should delete that line off. It's up above. It's the third one up. Yeah, from the bottom of that list, RocksDB. Yeah, well, it's listed twice. So it's there. It's in the, pull that out. We don't even have it in the Mandel repository at all. So you could remove it out of both lists. And then I think we do have soft float in both lists. So maybe that's a mistake. And we have UB HSM in both. So Steve, Kevin, we'll wait, because which is the right one? Which should they not be merged, or should they be merged?
They should not be. They're third party.
Okay, so that you can delete those. There you go.
Yeah. And I think the WASM spec tests, that's third party as well, is it not, Stephen?
No, that's something that we generated from the original spec tests.
Okay. I'd say at this point, I think you should get input from your new engineers about whether we actually want to do this or not. I mean, there are definitely pros and cons, and I'd like to get some more opinion.
Okay, so we can wait. The other engineers don't start till April 11th, I believe. And so I can email them or text them, before they start, but they are all on vacation right now. Or we can wait until, the week of April 11th, run this by them.
Yeah, I don't think there's any hurry on this. This is more of just a convenience for developers. And so, yeah.
Another way to ease the pain is if we somehow script it so that pull requests to the main repo will automatically sync the branches on the submodules.
Through like an automation or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's different ways to skin this cat. It's just a matter of deciding what we want to do here.
Yeah, I'll ping them. If they don't answer, it's okay. But if they do, then at least.
Yeah, there's no hurry on this. I think, they should probably be deciding the direction forward here. I mean, certainly the rest of the community can give input. But this is just one of those things where, it's just a matter of like, how do you want to manage all your repos?
Yep.
What do you need to maybe to indicate if it's going to be before 3 or after this merge? It should be somehow.
I think we could get it done before 3.1. If we decide we want it, we should do it before 3.1. And then we've got the release that goes out to all the block producers and everything is done the way it's going to be done in the future. I wouldn't want to release to the block producers and then change the structure. We have a chance to kind of start off new here.
Okay, so we'll revisit this in a few weeks when our new engineers are on board. Is that right?
Please add that the target for this change is before 3.1 release.
Yeah, I think that's really, this point that it's supposed to be before 3.1. I think that's really good, important point, because once you do this, like, you don't want to go back. And that's the real problem. You don't want to support like both. So you want to do it before 3.1 officially is cut. That way you don't ever have to because supporting it both ways is there's a real problem. If you have to do like some patch in something in FC, then you have to go do it in 2 different ways. So yeah, you definitely want to decide what you want to do and do it before 3.1 officially is cut.
Okay. Do we have a rough estimate of when 3.1 is available? Should we set a deadline here to make sure we get that done before any particular date?
I think Eve wants to have it around the time that the OCI work on the API transaction lifecycle is done. So weren't we thinking the end of June, Eve?
Yeah, so that would be at the very latest. It would be great to be able to time it alongside the OCI, but it's going to be hard to say when that's even possible until the engineers start and for them to give us a better estimate, and then to work alongside the OCI guys to see if we can work in tandem and what that looks like. But ideally, we get. Yeah, whether or not we even have something before that, I'm not too sure. But that would be,
so
if we're working
targeting
towards having end of June, that would make sense. That's where we're heading for that.
But this is actually work that will take some time to do. Is that right? So we need to make a decision. It's pretty easy, straightforward.
It's grunt work, but it's doable. It's not going to be the hard part. The hard part's going to be all the history and state log splitting and all the stuff, the code that's just not done, and bringing that code in. And that's what the engineers will be spending more time on, and creating what will eventually be 3.1 and deprecating all the old code out that's found and said this should be removed. They'll be busier with that than this. This will be a simple task if they decide they want.
Yeah, and this is I would say this is lower priority, and it's if we want to do it, right? And so I'd wait before the engineers start, get their feedback, continue having these discussions weekly here, and then they'll join once they start. And we've got Kevin that's here, Steven that's here as well. If this starts picking up and other people start joining as well, get their feedback, we can make that decision later on.
Moving on, don't have much to report. Dario has been watching our meeting recaps and just sent me a note to remind me that EOS Argentina does provide a faucet on Kylin. It is only, though, 10 tokens at a time, so it might not be useful for all of your testing use cases, but there is a faucet provided currently from Argentina. I'm still working towards getting one either from Lao Mao or perhaps even from EOS Nation. Nothing yet there.
I'll still make it rain if anybody needs a lot of tokens.
All right. Yeah, if anyone's looking for lots of tokens, talk to Michael. Thank you, Michael. I think that covers everything. Is there anything else? Do we want to put a rough date in here? What were we saying? What was your goal, Eve, for?
I mean, it would be great to be able to have, let's say, 3.1 RC1 live on the test nets at the end of June, pending, obviously, so it's like 2.5 months in advance, but pending OCI completion of their side of things, pending our engineers merging all the features, et cetera, et cetera. But that would be, I think, a good target date for now, so that we could have, ideally, the actual, let's say, 3.1 final release in sometime in early August to mid-August, where everybody's making the switch.
And sorry, you said mid-August or early August?
Yeah, early to mid. I mean, that gives a month afterwards. Again, yeah. Let's say early August. That'll be an aggressive date. We can always
Sure.
change.
Yeah, there's nothing
Again,
in
it'll
stone.
really depend. Yeah, it'll really depend what happens in the next few months. We're talking about now 3.5 months ahead of time, right? So.
And this is a 3.1 final release on Jungle.
Yes,
okay.
yes. And then we would have typically we would run that, let's say, for between 2 to 4 weeks stable, so that we would have mainnet. Well, I get at that point, it doesn't matter at that point because it's a softworks, whatever. It's just a regular upgrade. Block producers will start. Like I know that early August, EOS Nation is going to be running it like the week later on after they do their test, right? And then the full transition over always takes about 2 months or so, because everybody does it at their own pace. They coordinate. So I wouldn't talk about the mainnet right away. Just talk about the final release in early August on June. And then in August, and then we talked about having the hard fork September, still aiming towards September, I think it was 23rd, where then we activate functions that are in 3.1 that aren't currently activated, that are found in, let's say, 2.0 or 2.1.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we got plenty of time. That's good to know. And this is really all of our big communication. Hey, warning, get ready. This is really the date people need to be worrying about.
Yeah, so by then, features would have been tested for months because these are features that are already found right. And then the actual 3.1 would have been tested by then for months as well. So I think that's still achievable at this point.
Do we have any targets for unexpected service? Some exchanges aren't going to be on the ball, but we can avoid at least the big ones.
So what are you looking for there? And you're looking for actual like a number?
I don't know. Is there like we want to make sure that we contact and confirm with every single exchange that has daily volume over some amount, maybe. I don't know, useful or not.
It drops off very quickly, right? Where in terms of 24-hour volume, and maybe that's not the best metric, it is a good metric, but I don't know. You could set it $5 million brings you to the top, give or take 30. I mean, the majority of the volume is found in a few exchanges, right? And then you have exchanges that you've probably never heard of. Is it real volume? I have no idea. So I'd say anything lower than 5 million at first glance. I just don't even actually know. These are pairs, so it's not even the same. Hold on. The majority of the volume is found in the same exchange. It's just different pairs, right? So for example, Binance has pairs with EOS for multiple things. Well, then Binance also has a pair for like EOS in euro, which is under $1 million, but it's still Binance. It's still the same exchange. So if we go to the exchanges, I'd say it's more of a percentage, like maybe the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's say anything above 2% trading volume or 1.5% trading volume.
Avoid unexpected disruption for all exchanges and applications with more than 2%.
Yeah, I would put like more than 2% maybe. Basically, you're reaching out to 10 exchanges. There's the majority of the trading pairs are found on very few exchanges.
Right. So, but 2% of all of the EOS trading volume, is that?
Yeah, of all, and that fluctuates obviously. But yes, you could even say like the top, 15 exchanges trading. And it depends which metrics you want to use.
Okay. We'll continue to. Yeah, we'll continue to massage that.
This part's relatively easy.
Yeah. Okay.
And to be honest as well, most of the exchanges are getting their liquidity from the main exchanges, and they're just looking into the APIs. And so it's not necessarily that there's actual trading volume as much as there are bots. When those bots don't work, and that's where their money is, they're just going to switch over. It's relatively simple.
Cool. So one thing I'm going to work on over the next week is consolidating all of the notes. And we've got all of our meeting notes over the last 7 weeks. Things have changed. I think there's some people out in the community who still think we're targeting a consensus upgrade in May, for example. So I'm going to put together a 1-page summary of all of the latest information, and maybe we can communicate that in the short term. And then obviously we'll need to add much more of the technical details as that becomes available. We can do a separate kind of communication to developers once we have the things like the survey and all of the documentation Stan's working on.
Sure. And maybe change the 2% to 1%. And the number is still very manageable. We're talking about 20 exchanges.
Sure. Randall's team, again, has been doing an awesome job gathering contact information. So we can definitely reach out to much more than that. But we won't be waiting for a response, for example, from all of these people. We'll just make sure that we hear back at least from those top 15.
And experience of last time is the majority did switch over. They switched over at the last minute because they needed to, but they didn't do it beforehand. beforehand, which is normal. And the very few that didn't update, they quickly updated thereafter, and there was really no disruption of service. Like we didn't hear, because it's all bot volume, we really didn't hear of anything. There was literally no exchange that contacted the 1.8 fork that said, "Oh my God, my services are down." The times that has occurred had nothing to do with a fork. It had to do with the network either being congested and too much transaction volume, and their own history solutions, for example, just couldn't keep up. So it's never had to do with a fork.
Right. I'm going to update our objective here. The key part of our objective, I think, is signal to the world EOS is independent. Would you agree that that's a key part of what we're doing here?
I would. I think I don't think we're on the track to be doing quarterly releases, honestly. I'm not even sure that's a good thing. So Eve, would you be okay if we just pulled that out for now?
If that's the objective, sure. That would be an very aggressive objective in a while. Let's say in 2 or 3 years.
For now, I remember, when I was at a previous blockchain company that I'll just go unnamed for now, and some of the people were saying they wanted to make that a goal, and I said, well, if we can get 2 done a year first, then we'll see about 3, and then maybe we'll go to 4.
It depends what we're talking about. We're talking about hard fork, because if we're talking about just upgrades, we've done more than 4 upgrades per year consistently in the first 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, in getting all the block producers, including the exchanges, to upgrade to the entire release each time?
No, that's why I'm asking whether you're referring to hard forks. If we're talking about hard forks, I agree. We're talking about forks. We've upgraded more because it's irrelevant.
Yeah, my intention there was not necessarily quarterly consensus upgrades. It's just quarterly, and that was kind of coming from feedback, Eve, that you guys were talking about getting into a pattern eventually. So not all at once, but we will be increasing the frequency of releases and making sure that the work that we do here is preparing us for that.
But would you even expect, and I'm not saying a hard fork, would you even expect exchanges, say we put out 4 releases a year, they're just minor, there are no hard forks in them. Do you expect the exchanges to pick them up and run them, every one of them, within a short amount of time that we release them? I just feel
people skip, but it doesn't really matter, right? So we have, at any given time, we have all the block producers running different versions. That's pretty standard until they catch up. And so I'm really referring, like, one block producer would be running, like a good example would be EOS Nation is typically the first block producer to upgrade to everything. Then other people start winging in, but by the time, let's say, the last person's coming in, there's a new release again, and EOS Nation is on another version again. But the extra functionality or the extra performance and stuff is not a hard fork. So it doesn't really matter if everybody's cascading in different versions. Plus, some block producers run their own versions as well. They modify them. So in that regard, I would think that, yeah, if we were to do, let's say, non-breaking, non-hard fork changes 4 times per year, where we have extra features, extra little things where it improves some APIs or it improves some performance or it improves certain pieces of the code, I would say that's a pretty aggressive but really good goal that we've seen to manage in the past. And once we get into a groove, the exchanges were really responsive to upgrade frequently once they had that groove.
Yep, we just have a smaller team now, and we just don't quite have the throughput, even though we have, and even though in at the other blockchain company, besides the OGs, which there were 5 or 6, there were 4 kind of second tier players that would do a lot of these lower level tasks and stuff. We have none of those. So we're just a really skinny cat right now.
So I guess for now, and in the background, I'll beef up the capacity so that we can add that one at some point.
Yeah, and in the background, my goal here is everything that we're doing here, we should try to do it, make it so that it's repeatable. Let's not throw away the work we're doing here. Let's build the processes and the systems and the habit that make it easier to do again next time. Cool, I'm good with that. Anything else?
I just wanted to say, and I don't have the exact data, and Brian, if you do know, please chime in. I was trying to give some buffer, when we had discussed kind of end of June. I think end of June it's kind of a layup. It's really, it's buffered, because I think the OCI work is targeting mid-May or end of May. So if the engineers can come on board and get the history and states log splitting and stuff like that in the time, we might actually be a month sooner than we put there. I just want you to know that really should be the outside edge, and it should have buffer. And as we know a little more, and we'll meet with Alice, and I'll let Brian speak and he can say if he knows the actual target right now, but I thought it was in May sometime.
We obviously want to shoot for that. I'm not ready at this point to commit to being that far ahead. I could see it as possibly being.
Okay, I thought one of the early estimates we had thought it looked like about that timeline, but what we'll keep doing is my point to you, Daniel, is as we're working, we'll pay much closer attention to the timelines of all the dependencies
as we go.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that could be that we could control or that we could communicate is we could put, let's say, end of June, mid-July type of thing. So that's what the communication is at this time. And as we get closer to the day, if we're able to actually beat that and get faster, we can shoot that as a good news story. Like, we're so on track that we're even to go, let's say, mid-June or something like that instead. And then that communication could change. So the messaging that we're putting out would reflect that we are faster than what we originally expected, which is a good news story.
End of June is currently what we say are saying for RC1. Is that still?
I would keep it as it is for now. And if you start communicating, I would still put that as that for now. And if in the next 2 months that become end of May or mid-June, great. We're faster than what we thought.
I'm hoping that will be the case.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay.
I just want to thank everybody who consistently shows up on these calls every week. We now have 16 people and there's a lot of familiar faces. Thank you very much, everybody. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you guys. Appreciate your engagement. And yeah, we'll see you all next week and in the chats in the meantime. Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.